Hello, Empower Nation. Welcome to Empower Her Money podcast. I am your host, Angela Duncan, speaker, best-selling author, serial entrepreneurs, and we are talking all things money and business. Today's episode is sponsored by freemoneytipsbook.com, freemoneytipsbook.com. Head over there and download your free book, 7 steps to get you started on your financial journey. Today's episode, I am interviewing Crystal Ann. She is the CEO and founder of Exotic Car Wraps Boca, and she's going to talk about today on partnerships gone wrong and how to pivot. Hi, Crystal. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so excited to have you on the show today. I would love for you to start off and talk a little bit about your journey, your story. How did you get to where you are today?
So my journey has been a little bit of a up and down one, that's for sure. I'm actually an esthetician, so that's how I started off, working at one of the big spas in Palm Beach here for a while, and then I went out on my own. And I've just always had a passion for cars because my growing up, me and my dad were very close. And so that was one of the things that he was into. So I gained a love of that from him. And when the opportunity to partner in the wrap shop came along, I kind of jumped at the opportunity because it was something I had already been thinking about. So I'm like, oh, I manifested this. And so we had a meeting about it and moved forward. And that's how I got to where I am now.
Yeah. So your company, you do wraps on all different types of cars, and I saw
Mhm.
boats, and so that's pretty awesome. You're enjoying it a lot, I assume too.
I do. I have my days, as with any business, where I just want to scream. But I really enjoy it. I have the freedom of my schedule. What I'm doing is artistic, I feel like. And so I really enjoy that aspect of it. I went from making over faces to making over cars.
That's funny. So you're a newer business owner for this company. Talk about like your first year when you got started. What are some lessons that you learned, and maybe for other people who are thinking about getting into business, what can you share with them for expectations?
Well, I think I had a little bit of an unusual first year in my business. I went into business with a partner who put the business in jeopardy very quickly and had to be removed, which, was a big hurdle coming right out of the gate. And right after that, we had a major flood in the shop. So there was quite a few things right out of the gate that were, big punches to the gut. So, it was just kind of about rolling with those punches and deciding that it was something that I cared enough about to continue to roll with the punches and, do what it takes to continue moving forward. And I'm glad that I did because, things now have settled, business is going well. We've been building our reputation, and it's definitely a little bit more difficult doing it on my own, but it's also more fulfilling. Um, so I would say, uh, mm,
So recognizing the partner early on wasn't a right fit, and moving
yes,
away from that,
I
because
was.
you could have stayed there for years, but you moved away pretty quickly.
Yes, yes. And I mean, with the way that things happened, there really wasn't much of a choice like that. I knew that that was something that could not, the business would not survive with that person. So, maybe if you are starting something with another person, really just kind of have your contract set well, make sure that everything is outlined and outlined mainly to protect your business more than anything, because, like, it's kind of like having a little baby. You've got to protect the baby, make sure the baby's going to be safe and taken care of no matter what. And fortunately, that's what I did. And so, yeah, the partner thing didn't work out for me. It does for some people, but personally, I have had much more success as a solo business owner.
Yeah, so being in charge, but then building out a team that's still going to help you, but you're the main decision maker now.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So
And my team is huge. There's been so many people that have helped me, especially through those times, because in the beginning, I didn't know much about this industry, so I was not expecting to be thrown into it all by myself pretty much, 3 months in. So there have been quite a few people, either even other shop owners who have really been super, super helpful to me in continuing my business and learning and growing and handling things as they've come towards me. And I'm really grateful to those people. So yeah, leaning on people who really do support you and have your back, that's important, and having a good support system.
I love that too. You talked about like other shop owners. So instead of seeing each other as competition, you guys are helping each other out to grow each other's businesses. And that's such a different way to approach. But that I think that's amazing too.
Yeah, it definitely is. And with this industry, there's plenty of business for everyone. And I think you go further when you stop, trying to be in competition with the people around you and just focus on your own thing and being the best at what you're doing. A lot of people focus on what everybody else is doing, and then when you're focusing on everyone else, the focus is no longer on you and your business. So then I think that it causes that to, take a hit. So that's been very important to me, is to keep focused on what I'm doing and where I want my brand to be, what I want our reputation to be like, and the vision of the brand, basically.
Right. And I think that applies to many industries, and you're focusing on what you can control, which is you and your brand and how you serve your clients, what kind of business you want to run, what kind of team you want to have, and then just being a good role model then for other women too. So, especially in a man's world, right? I think your industry is kind of male dominated. So, how have you kind of navigated through that? Because you have a lot of experience with your father growing up with the industry, but it's not typically a female industry. So what have you done differently, you feel like, just kind of navigating through that?
Um, well, I think that I do have to work a little bit harder to be taken seriously in this industry. I definitely have to stand up for myself a little bit more. I've had some situations where, I know a client would not have addressed me the way that they had approached me, if I were a man at the other end of the, table. But again, it's handling things with grace and putting my best foot forward. And that's really how I want my brand and my business to be represented. Our attention to detail and the way that we do things, just, taking it an extra little step further, whether it's having the cars detailed before they're picked up, or, just the way we deal with the clients. It's taking that little extra step because I feel like I have to do that. And even if I didn't have to, that's kind of in my nature to, be top tier. So
Good, good. So now that you're progressing forward and you've had, this is is it your second year in business now?
yes,
Yeah.
it's
So
my
what,
second year, but I kind of look at it as my first, since my first real year was such a mess.
yes, hopefully you had the
But
right
I
insurance.
put it nicely. It was quite an interesting first year. So I'm like, scratch that one. This is I look at this as really my first year in business, because there was so much that happened the first year. So it was really hard to focus on the business and growing the business. There was a lot of learning curves and things like that, because I really did not know much about the industry when I came in, and I thought I was coming in with a partner, someone who did have knowledge of the business, which I learned very quickly. They also did not have any idea what was going on. So again, that was leaning on my support system and the people who really did know the industry, who helped me and guided me, and still do that to this day. And they didn't have to do that, but they have, and again, like I said, I'm very grateful for that because it's helped me become better. And with any business, even with my skincare business, I always like to find the people who are at the top of their craft, and then have them either mentor me or how they do things and learn from them, because the people who are doing it and doing it well, that's who you want to learn from. And
Mm-hmm.
so the fact that those people have been willing and open to do that for me has been fabulous.
I find most times they are. It's just we're afraid to ask. So,
Yes.
seek out the people in your world that are doing bigger things than you and ask them and have conversations. And I have found, probably 99% of those people say yes, they want to share because they know where you've been. They've been there before. So they want to
Mm-hmm.
help you get to that next level. And especially when they can see your heart behind it, right? They know you're a good person. They know you're serving your clients. So they want to help you get to that next level. So that's really good advice too. So where do you see yourself going in the next 5 years from now?
So ultimately, where I want to be in the next 5 years is with my business. Um, I'd like to have three separate sides, to be honest. I'd like to have our signage side of it, which is like graphics, like storefront graphics, murals, wall stuff, things like that. I'd like to have an interior side because a lot of people don't realize with the wrap business, there is a lot of interior wraps. We have wood. We have a material that's wood that like actually feels like wood. It looks like wood. A lot of hotels and things are going to this instead of the wood paneling, because it's more cost effective. It's better for uh, oh my goodness, the word is just ran away from me. It's better for the environment.
Okay.
So, there's a lot to be done. So, and then, the side with the cars and the things of that nature. So I'd like to get it to where we have three different sides to the business. Right now, we're kind of handling it all out of one space,
Mm-hmm.
but the end goal is to grow into a position where each branch is managed separately.
Yeah, I've seen some of your work, obviously the exterior wrap. I've seen some of the interior with the boats, but I didn't think about the signage. So I'll be interested to see kind of like what that looks like. Maybe we can turn, Boca and West Palm into kind of like what Wynwood is, right? With all the murals. And it just makes it so beautiful to be outside and see like that history and that artwork when you're outside too. So I would love to see that. So one last piece of advice for business owners getting into business besides the partnership and the contracts, maybe from a money perspective, something that you learned that you wish you would have known when you started?
Um, hmm. Be prepared to spend a lot of it. Because I put forth an initial investment, and then very quickly I ended up eating with the also, again, like I said, I had a very different beginning with my business, but I very quickly ate through my savings and things like that with trying to keep the business afloat, and keeping things going during those struggles. And I will be honest, there was a point where I was very, very close to, and I questioned myself if this was the route I wanted to continue to take, because it did seem like everything was stacked against me. And I'm glad that I made the decision, and I did pretty much spend every last dime that I had to my name to keep the business going, and stretched myself a little bit, but in the end, it paid off. So you have to be prepared for kind of like anything, and so going into business and not having those reserves is definitely a big mistake, because if I didn't have those reserves, I would, my business would not have made it to
You
this.
might not still be here right now.
Yes.
Awesome.
Be back in the spa.
Yeah. So I have a fun question for you. If you could have a superpower, what would it be and why would you pick it?
Oh, that's such a tough one. Hmm. What would yours be?
Mine was singing. Well, a voice that people would actually want to hear. I mean, everyone can sing, right? But for me, I would love to be able to have that impact. I go to church, I listen to worship music, and
Yeah.
when you have an incredible singer on stage, you just feel the
Hmm.
words, you feel the environment. Like if I could have that kind of effect on people, I
Yeah.
think that would be incredible. But yeah, I would not sing in public because it's not going to be the same effect on people.
That's funny. I love that. Um, Not that it's necessarily a superpower, but for me, it's very, very hard to do. I would like to be able to get up in front of people and speak in front of like crowds of people without absolutely freezing in terror. I always wanted to speak. Because I don't know if you know, but I got certified as a life coach 2 years ago. And
Hmm.
so something I really wanted to do was be able to speak at conferences and things like that in front of people and in order to help people, which was why I went down that path. And it is just something that I have worked at and worked at. And no matter how much I work at it, it is terrifying to me. And if I get up in front of a room full of people, I am like a blundering idiot. So that I think that would be, even though it's not technically like a superpower, I think that would be something that I would choose.
Yeah, and I've heard from speakers, even speakers who have done it for years and years, they say they still get nervous going on stage. So,
Mhm.
even those that have practiced that skill or have been given that talent, still get nervous. But I'm the same way, one on one on a Zoom call like we're doing right now. I can have a conversation all day long, but yeah, the
Yep.
stage presence is still very difficult for me too.
Yeah. So
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time today.
thank you. I enjoyed it. I'm glad you had me on.
Yes, awesome. That concludes another episode of Empower Her Money podcast. I am your host, Angela Duncan. Thank you. And don't forget to tune in again for another episode. Thanks, Crystal.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Empower Her Money podcast. Make sure you leave me a 5-star review, share this podcast, subscribe, and share the message.